So welcome. If you are new here, welcome to the first time. If you are checking back again, thank you for being here. My name is Breeze. This is the Differently podcast. This podcast is for purpose-driven artists and creatives who want to do things differently. You know, we give tips on content creation, strategy to how to really start to activate this vision that you have. I really believe that we are all given gifts and talents and these desires, and it's very intentional. There is a reason why you have them, and I do feel is because it is through those gifts and those talents, it is presenting an answer to a type of need or a problem that we see in our communities. And because we are so unique, and those problems are unique and those answers are unique, and it's this is where I feel like there is no such thing as competition, because we really have our own lanes. The more that we start to really tap into that and get aligned with that, we start to really understand how important our role is in life. And I think another word for that is purpose. So, Differently is our podcast, but it's also a whole thing that through decades of experience and trial and error and just risk taking, it has kind of led to this moment. And I thought I'd kind of spend time sharing a little bit about it and kind of my background and what sort of led to this moment right now. And so this is going to be an interesting episode, and I hope it still brings value to you. It's a little different to the interviews that we do or just, specific topics that I get into. Today I kind of wanted to show like the makings of Differently and how it came about, and really the future of it. And, it really is this growing thing that is taken a life of its own. So a bit about my background. I started playing drums when I was 6 years old. I was watching the Muppets. I had given up on my dream of being a basketball player. I wanted to be Michael Jordan because I saw Space Jam, and that's who I wanted to be when I grew up. And quickly found out that wasn't really going to be a possibility. So I was watching the Muppets and I saw Animal playing the drums, and I was like, I want to do that. And I luckily enough had parents who were totally supportive of that, because I can't imagine why a parent would want a loud instrument, like in the house, like especially when you're learning a very loud instrument. So I got lessons and was just automatically hooked. Like as soon as I sat down and just started mucking around, like I was hooked. I was, you couldn't tell me otherwise. I spent so much time like just really practicing everything. I wanted to be great at it. And I remember there was a moment where I think my dad, he would do like pyrotechnics at the time, and he would help set up pyrotechnics for these big shows, like these big arena shows back in Australia. And he brought me along one time. And I remember I was a kid that was just very adventurous. I always liked to like do my own thing. And I remember like sneaking off because I saw that the drum kit was set up, and I was just wanted to go see. And I remember I was like 7 years old, and I'm climbing up on the stage, and there's like these little steps that led straight to the drum kit that was on this riser on this massive stage. And I remember it was so dramatic, the whole thing. It was like a real movie scene. Like the two lights were just shining on the kit, and they were bright. And I'm climbing up the steps in slow motion, and I remember I just sat down on the kit. And the sound guy was like, I heard him through the microphone because I didn't think anyone could see me. He was like, do you want to do the sound check? And I was like, what's that? And he's like, well, just kick the kick drum. And I remember I kicked the kick drum, and I just hear this big that would just like fill out the stadium. And from that moment on, I was like, whatever this is what I'm going to be doing. I was so sold out for it. I just knew like, this is what I'm going to be doing. And I did, not long after that, like a few years later, I got taught myself guitar and piano and got into like songwriting and then producing, and I would write songs, and then my siblings would join along, and then we ended up like being in a band together, and then we would tour around Australia, and we were lucky to have parents that were like really supportive of that. So I had kind of been on the road for a very long time, like since I was like 10 or 11 years old, and touring around, really kind of taking on the role of artist. And, throughout my time as I would get older, a lot of the more of the responsibilities I would pick up on, like, how does it run like a business? Like, how do you go and get shows? How do you schedule time in the studio? And then that turned into, well, how do you nurture a fan base? And then that turned into, well, how do you start to like strategize a career and make sure it's, moving forward, and you're constantly, pivoting and changing strategy, and who are the people that can help you get to where you need to go. And it got to a point where it was 2019, and we were able to get on main support for an arena tour. And this was playing some of the biggest venues in Australia, some of the most iconic venues in Australia. And, we were able to get this by no help from a label or management or any agency, like any of the industry that you would think, helps bands get to there. And, after that, it was, well, let's switch territories. And that's, what kind of landed me in Nashville, and it's where I've been for the last 3 years. And, where I'm at now is like, I have all this experience and all this knowledge, and kind of like, I don't want to gatekeep it. I don't want to not be able to pay it forward and move it forward. So now I really am passionate about helping other artists and other creatives kind of follow along on like how I figured it out, and what worked for me and what didn't work for me, and kind of learn how to really find your place, because I do know what it's like in the darker side of the industry. There is a lot going on, and it's really like, what do we focus on? How do I create a strategy, or what do I really focus on and have a priority for? And, that takes a lot of time to be able to figure out. But what I will say is that I don't think it needs to take as much time as we think. So it's like, I want to help artists kind of fast track that, and really a lot of it is mindset, and really being able to be thick-skinned too, because you are constantly going to be putting yourself in a position for rejection. And you're going to always be constantly putting yourself in a position of comparison. You're going to be constantly putting yourself in a position of doubt and fear and all these things that just create discomfort. And, what do you do when you create discomfort? I had been wanting to play arenas for years. Like, that was a goal and a vision that I knew if I had the opportunity, I could do. And when, flash forward to the moment where I am then in that opportunity, like that very first show, sitting in the green room, like in absolute terror, because I could just hear the stadium filling up. And it was just kind of one of those moments of like, oh, this is real. This is so much different to what I was thinking about. This is so much different to, how I knew I was capable of doing it. It was just this moment of like fear kind of rolling up and being like, okay. And, if you don't have the right intention for things or have a self-esteem or really know your value, those are the moments where you can crumble because you get a sense of the pressure. And that is a really, really important thing to know how to handle, because you are going to be having things coming at you all the time. You already do. And it's, what do you do with that? And so that's just a very like short and sweet dot pointed look into my journey. But the amount of experiences that I've had and the things that I've learned from each of those experiences has brought so much value to my life in knowing really how to stay calm under pressure. Really getting into the habit of how do I have a bird's eye view of things? How can I, be present, but also expand out? And, what I really feel is important and a skill that is one to cultivate, right? Is to have the ability to be able to do that, to know that every action is intentional. It leads into the next. Having this, I've seen a way that it was put that I feel like was put in a really, really great way, is having this process journey mindset instead of this destination mindset. There was so much to the arena experience that if we had had a team around us that was helping us strategize a little bit more, there was so much more that we could have capitalized off. And kind of having that understanding now, I really feel I want to bring that to the table when it comes to helping other artists strategize their career, because it's like we're all out for the same thing. We all want to be able to say, I played arenas, and, hopefully get to the position of being like, I can fill them, because in our minds, what that's showing is that what we are doing is working. We're connecting with our audience, and that's growing, and when we're knowing how to nurture it. Sadly, a lot of us are doing that and pursuing that because we need that sense of validation, and we are really moving from insecurity instead of moving from a place that is secure. And that's what I really want to help artists know the difference is when you are putting yourself out there, when you are releasing a song and you are making these goals that really, at the end of the day, you don't have full control over. Why are you making those goals? Why are you even wanting your fan base to grow? What are you giving to them that is so important that everyone needs to know about it? Because if we're not careful, especially in this business, we are really flirting with some destructive qualities that are in our nature. And that's a fact. And I've battled all of them. I've battled insecurity. I've battled external validation. I've battled, alcoholism, like addiction. I've battled the comparison. I've battled the jealousy of watching other people that I felt hadn't worked as hard as I had worked. These are embarrassing things to admit, but, I feel like it just needs to be put out there. Like there's a lot of people that are making jealous moves, and I know you're making jealous moves because I made the same ones. And, I've just grown from that, I want to really reassure you, that it is possible to feel like what you are doing is purposeful. And really the key to that the key to unlock that is to understand that what you do isn't what is important, that what you create isn't what is important. It's how you connect. It's how you are building something that is outside of you, you know, and are you building more leaders than followers? Are you using your platform to really ignite somebody to be like, you know what you're doing is inspiring me to do that in my life? And are you seeing your fan base grow with their own success? Or are you only seeing you grow in success and people patting you on the back? And this is a really, really, really subtle, hard thing to deal with because it's really hard to identify, you know? And that's what Differently is bringing to the table, is creating a new culture within the industry that creates more leaders than followers. And that's what I'm about, because, you know, I've had people along the way that have helped me so much become a leader in, you know, everything that I'm doing, not in just, you know, my business and in my music, but just, you know, in life, in the way I navigate relationships and situations and all of that, you know, having solid people that are fanning the good parts of me. And that's the question I want to leave with you is, are you creating that within your art? And did you know that you can do that? And did you know that that's what's more important than what you are actually creating? So I really hope that this challenged you in the best ways. And, you know, it's something that's been on my mind for a while, and I'm just in the point in time where I am ready to share that and share this vision and share, you know, the answers that I feel like I've been given that are unique to me in solving a problem that, you know, I think many of us face every day. And so I hope you enjoyed this episode. Tune in for the next one. Make sure that you're following and subscribing and just being a part of the conversation. You know, there's many different places where we can keep this conversation going. So yeah, I'll see you next time.